Hello and welcome to Zen Den Stories. My name is Luke Pearce, and here I tell stories that help you to think differently. Now, in today's story, I want to tell you about a very wise old man that had many experiences within his lifetime that helped him change the way that he thinks, feels, and acts. But it wasn't always the way. You see, this wise old man was once a naive young man. And before that, he was a young boy. And before that, he was a teeny tiny little baby. He came into the world just as everyone else does, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to walk, how to sleep, how to eat, how to do all the things that right now we probably take for granted. And as all of us, he had to start and begin his journey step by step by step. Now, he grew up in a beautiful young family and everything was really good. His school life was great. He was very intelligent and very smart. But one day at school, the teacher asked him to stand up and to read a passage from the book that the class was learning from. Now, he wasn't the most confident reader because of the sheer fact that he was very kinesthetic, which means that he was very intuitive and he would feel a lot of things, rather than some people are auditory and they hear things, and some people are visual and they obviously see things. Now, for himself, his learning style was to be hands-on and to actually feel what is going on rather than look and rather than hear. And as he stood up, for whatever reason, he didn't feel right. You see, everyone in the class was very nervous about getting up in front of other people and reading, because some of the people could not read in the class. Some of the people were really good in the class, and that would make other people feel even worse because they would get up, they would read the whole passage, they wouldn't make a mistake whatsoever. And then the people that could not read so good, they would be sitting there thinking, oh my God, I must be stupid, I must be dumb, I'm not as good as that person. And the cycle goes on and on and on. Now, this day, everyone was very nervous, and he was picking up on all of that. He was feeling what other people were feeling. But the crazy thing is, as he was a young boy at this stage, he thought that it was actually him. He thought that he was very nervous. He thought that he was very anxious. He thought that everything it was that he was feeling was actually him. But that wasn't necessarily the case. So he stood up and he started to read. And as he started to read, he got more and more nervous. And he started to think inside his head. He's like, oh my God, am I going to stuff this up? Oh my God, I don't want to do anything wrong. I don't want to make a mistake. And it got worse and worse and worse. And all of a sudden he started to sweat. He started to stumble in his words. He started to stutter. Now, the teacher, on the other hand, being a teacher for many years, it was the end of the year. So by this stage, they've done a lot of work. They've got to look after many different kids. And today the teacher was having a very bad day. You see, because the teacher had her own life going on behind the scenes. She was having problems with her husband and her own kids. And, there was a sickness in the family and all the things. And they had to worry about paying the bills. And on this day, she was very touchy. On this day, she was very cranky. Anyone did anything wrong, she would be on them straight away. So as this young man started to stutter, started to stumble across his words, the teacher said, "Stop right there. This is atrocious. Your reading is absolute garbage." And she absolutely gave it to this poor young man. Now, as this poor young man was standing there in front of the class, getting an absolute serving from the teacher, could you imagine how that young man felt? That young boy felt? In his own head, he's going, oh, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm never going to be able to do this, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. And in that moment, because he was in such an emotional state, his unconscious mind downloaded those beliefs. And the scary thing is that a significant emotional event, something like that, although for you listening to it right now might not seem so significant, but if you put yourself into the shoes of that young boy, then you would understand just how significant it is. It can be just as powerful as hypnosis. Because when you are in a vulnerable, fearful, stressful state, the gateways to your unconscious mind is wide open. And whatever is happening within your environment, your unconscious mind is downloading. So you ask the question yourself, why is this so important? Well, you think about this. The young boy got up, started talking, was very nervous, very fearful and all the thing. So the gateway to the unconscious mind was wide open. Then the teacher gave him an absolute ear bashing, yelled at him, called him all sorts of names, and his unconscious mind took on board everything within that moment. She said, you know what? You're never going to do anything. Just sit down and be quiet. So he sat down. Now on the external, maybe to other people, he just looked a little bit upset, but on the inside, he was crying. He was hurting. And he was hurting for the main reason because he looked up to this lady. He looked up to the relationship that they had, almost like a mother figure. And you could understand how powerful that would be if someone that you truly loved really pretty much disowned you in front of everyone. You see, that young boy at that point in time was looking at the teacher as his mother and all the peers in his class as his brothers and sisters. Now that young boy has been not only rejected by the mother, but he's been humiliated in front of his brothers and sisters. So he didn't really think that much of it. Yes, he was upset. Yes, he was hurt, but he just kept on going with his life. And the next day, the teacher was sort of back to normal. And the week after, the teacher was really loving and compassionate and all these things, because obviously she sorted out whatever she needed to sort out. And he went on with his life. He went through high school. He went out and got a job. And the weird thing happened is as he started to get older, these beliefs of I'm not good enough, I don't deserve X, Y, and Z, whatever that might be, or I can't do it because I'm too stupid, that played out within his life. You see, when he got to about 16 or 17, obviously he started to get interested in girls and he wanted to take them out on dates and go to the disco or whatever it is that they did. But what would happen is he would get the urge to ask whoever it is he liked out on the date, but then these little voices within his head, sometimes he was aware of them and sometimes he was not, would say things like, you can't do that. You're too stupid. You're not good enough for her. You're not worthy of that girl's attention or whatever it might be. So what did he do? Well, sometimes he would ask them out. Sometimes he would just do nothing. Sometimes he would just hold himself back completely. But now and then he did muster up the courage to ask them out. And when he did ask them out, everything would go really, really good. Because he was a pretty cool guy. He's very genuine, very loving, all the things that you would want within a partner. And he would go out on these dates and then all of a sudden, something would happen within the situation and these trigger words, these buttons would be pushed internally. And that feeling that he had when he was humiliated in front of the group would come up once again. And what would happen is he would sabotage and he wouldn't even know it. This is the worst part about it. He would not even know what it was that he was doing. He was just conscious and aware of the result of things not going well. And he couldn't work it out. He kept saying to himself, why is this happening? Why does this keep happening to me? This is ridiculous. I've had many different relationships, many different job opportunities, and for some reason, they never go my way. And what started to happen is he started to get quite bitter with life. He started to look out into the world. He started to get angry, resentful, very hurt because nothing was really seeming to go his way. Now, he didn't really think that much of it at the time because, like I said, he was a young man. He wasn't a wise old man yet. He has not had all the life experiences that is yet to come within his life. So one day he went to work and he thought to himself, do you know what? I really, really want this job. And the job, if you could believe it, was at a library. And it wasn't a public library. It was like an antique library bookshop. It's very, very powerful because if you really think about it, back in the day, he was literally accused and, ear bashed, so to speak, for not being able to read and not being able to do the things that the teacher wanted him to do. So one skill that he really wanted to master was reading. Ever since that day, he's like, you know what? I'll show you. I'll prove to you that I am good enough to read. And he read and he read and he read. So obviously this is where he ended up at the bookshop. Now, one day at the bookshop, this same customer that came in every single week and got all these different books, they would bring them back. They would get new ones. The next week, they'd bring them back. They'd get new ones. He started to talk to them about, hey, what is it that you're reading at the moment? And the one person said, oh, you know what I'm really interested at the moment now is why people do what it is that they do. And he's like, oh my God, I've been asking myself that question for, 20 years. He said, I really want to find out why I hold myself back or why some areas of my life don't really go the way that I want them to go. And the person that came in, the customer said, well, if you really want to know, ask yourself the question, are you serious about wanting to know or do you just like the idea of it? And he said, no, I really, really want to know. They said, okay, then what you need to do is you need to read this book. So he got the book and he put it on the back shelf and he didn't do anything about it for months and months and months. And more opportunities went by in his life. And guess what? More self-sabotage behaviors, thought patterns, and feelings came up. All of a sudden, that same customer came back in and he saw the young man and said, oh my God, no offense, but you look horrible. What has happened to you? And he said, oh my God, it's just, I don't have a relationship. I don't have the money that I want. I don't have the health and fitness that I want. I pretty much hate myself. And all I can think about is just how worthless I am, how I'm not good enough for literally anything. And that I must just be stupid and dumb because I just can't seem to put anything together within my life. And as he was saying that, guess where he was living inside his own mind? Back when he was 10 years old, standing up in front of the class, getting humiliated, getting rejected. But that was just his perception. You see, the perception of his next door neighbor in his class was, oh my God, he's just not reading very well. I can't read very well right now, so I'm just learning. And they didn't think anything of it whatsoever. So his perception was all doom and gloom. The perception of the person next to him was very different. The perception of the teacher, she didn't even know what it is that she said because she was so unconscious and so consumed by her own life challenges, which is very, very easy to do. She doesn't even remember having the conversation. So he's sitting there telling this customer all his problems. And they said, hey, you haven't read the book yet, have you? And he's like, oh my God, the book. I forgot about it. They said, go and read the book this week. Make it a must. And they said, I don't want you to do it. They said, I want you to read the book because only you are going to be the one that can create the change within inside your life. They said, you are a very, very switched on person. You don't get this far in your life by being stupid and dumb and not good enough and not deserving and all these sorts of things that you keep telling yourself. And he sort of thought for a second, he's like, oh, I've never really thought about that. And they said, also, where is this all coming from? Do you believe that now as you are? I think he's about 30, 35, something like that. And he's like, no, it's not me now. Me now is, I'm a warrior. I'm a learner, I'm a listener, I'm a doer, I'm an action taker. And they said, well, where is all this, nonsense? Where is all this garbage coming from? Because they said, you got to understand the things that you're telling yourself on a daily basis is going to be the life that you're experiencing. Consciously and unconsciously, aware or not aware, same thing. You're waking up in the morning and what it is that you're listening to within inside your own mind, whether it's your voice or someone else's, is literally ruling your life. And they said, when is now a good time to get back into the driver's seat of your own vehicle, being you? And he sort of gave them a really blank look, and he's like, now? They said, yes. Ding, ding, ding. You win. Now is the time to get back into the vehicle of yourself, to get back into the driver's seat of your own life and do the things that you want to do. Why is that? Well, life is one of the longest things that you will ever do, but the days are short and they go very, very quickly. You need to remember that. You see, some people go through life and they're like, you know what, it'll be sweet, it'll be cool, everything will just sort itself out, which yes, it definitely does. Life can't not sort itself out. You've survived, you've thrived, and you've got through everything that your life has given you so far. So I can't see why anything would be any different in the very near future. Even when times that you've gone through life and you do not know what it is to do, guess what? You've still managed to get through it. Think about all the times within your life right now where you said to yourself, oh my God, I have no idea how this is going to work out. Guess what? It worked out in some way, shape, or form. Now, some of those things, yes, would have gone to absolute chaos. But some of those things turned to absolute gold. And some of those things just disappeared, whatever it might have been. But you're still here. You're still listening to this. You're still doing whatever it is you're doing today. So you must have done something right. So the lady that was with the customers said, what you need to do is read the book. You must learn how your mind works, because she said all these things that you're talking about, listening about, and literally hypnotizing yourself for could be changed within a very, very short amount of time. And he said, okay, cool. I'll go and read the book. He said to his boss, hey, look, I need 1 week. I need 1 week off. I haven't taken a holiday in many, many years. And the boss said, oh my God, go and do whatever it is that you need to do. Because even I've noticed over the last couple of months that you're great at what it is you do, but there's something missing. And he said, if you really think about it, your life is a little bit like a jigsaw puzzle. At the start of it, you've got, 50 million pieces and they're all jumbled up. You don't know what to do with them. You got no picture whatsoever. And then he said, what it is that you need to do is you need to figure out where the pieces go. And he said 9 times out of 10, what will happen is you'll piece the puzzle together and then you'll look at the picture and you'll be like, oh my God, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. He said, then you've got to turn the picture upside down and then it'll actually make sense. He said, that's how complex life can be. But he said, if you understand that every single day, if you just put one piece of the puzzle together, then within a week, you've got 7 pieces of the puzzle. Within a month, you've got a month's worth of pieces of the puzzle. And you get the point. Within a year, within 10 years, within 20 years, within 30 years, within 100 years, you end up being a pretty wise person over time, because every single day, all you did was put one piece of the puzzle together. Rather than the person that has got the 50 million piece jigsaw puzzle and they're trying to do it all in a day. And they're exhausted because they don't sleep, they don't eat, they don't drink enough water. They surely don't do anything that is fun or recreational for themselves. They don't hang out with other people. Their internal dialogue is, get this done, get this done, get this done, get this done, get this done. And maybe what they don't realize is every piece to the puzzle is an experience in the puzzle. And putting too many pieces of the puzzle together is almost wishing away too many experiences within their life. And he said, okay, cool. I'll go and read the book. I promise you, I've got 7 days off. I'm actually going to go away to, like a little cottage sort of thing. And it's just going to be me. So he went away and he actually opened up this book. Now, on the front of the book, it was called something along the lines of, how would you like to know why it is that you do what it is that you do? And he was like, my God, why did I not pick this up months ago when those customers gave it to me? He just couldn't wrap his mind around it. He said, anyway, I'm here now. I'm going to start to read. For the next 2 days, he read that book word for word, just like the jigsaw puzzle pieces, every single word. And sometimes he would stop, sometimes he would meditate, think a bit about the paragraph or the chapter or the sentence that it is that he was listening to. And he found out that within those pages, the reasons why he was doing what he was doing. After those 7 days, he came back to work and his boss said, "Oh my God, you look different. What have you done?" He said, "I don't really know." The customers came in that week and they did not say a word when they walked in. They just smiled. And you know when you look at someone or someone looks at you and they know what you know, and you don't have to say a word. There's just this unwritten contract of like, we're on the same page, we're on the same frequency, we know what's going on. That's what happened. The customers went, they got their new books, they come up to the counter and they said, "So, how was your holiday?" And he said, "Well, you could just say that there was much wisdom within those books. You see, I read through page by page by page, and I realized that I can do pretty much anything that I want. And not only can I do anything that I want, but I've already been doing it my whole entire life. But these little voices within inside my head were telling me the opposite." He said, "I'm not good enough" is the silliest thing on the planet to tell yourself because there's no context to that. You know, in the book, he said one of the exercises was, what is it that you're not good enough for? Specifically, what is it do you think that you're not good enough for? Are you good enough to read a book? Are you good enough to drink some water? Are you good enough to breathe fresh, clean air? And he said to himself, of course, it's a bit silly not to. And then he started to think, well, are you good enough to live the life of your dreams? And that's where he started to have conflict. But the conflict was not his in that present moment. It did not come from the perception that he had as that now gaining into a wise older man. It was the perception of him when he was 10 years old. And the perception of yourself at 10 years old is very, very different than the perception that you have now. Think about the things that you can do now compared to when you were 10 years old. It's going to be like chalk and cheese, but this is what happens within the world. People are running off beliefs that are from a 10-year-old, form of themselves. And that's going to lead to conflict and chaos. Why is that? Because the perceptions that you had when you were 10 were for the 10-year-old version of yourself, not for the version of who you are right now. So he said it was such a crazy thing to think about, what is it that I'm not good enough for? And then to find out where specifically it was actually coming from. Then I just had to learn, or then I just had to ask a question, what is it that I need to learn from this situation in order to change my perception on X, Y, and Z, whatever it is that he was going through? So he got those learnings and he changed the game completely within inside his own mind. He said another really good tip that he got out of the book was the fact that the tone of voice that you even talk in, or the tone of voice that you listen to within inside your own mind, is one of the most important things ever. Because if you think about it, I'm not good enough. The only difference, the only thing that changes within that sentence, the difference between make or break is not. Because if you had the belief of I am good enough, your life would be very, very different. So if you wrote it down on a piece of paper, literally the thing that makes the change or seems to make the change is just the word not. You take the not out of your life, you can do anything. Because now it becomes, I am good enough. It's the same thing with I can't do that. The only thing that's stopping you is the apostrophe and the T. You take that out, I can do that. And you live a different world. You live a different life. And it's very, very important to understand that, because if you asked yourself, or if you said to yourself, I am not good enough, you're probably not going to feel that great. If you said to yourself, I am not good enough, I am not good enough, I am not good enough. Well, that changes the game because you're changing the tone of the not. You don't really hear that, do you? You just hear, I am not good enough. I am good enough. I am good enough. I do deserve. I can do. We need to understand, just as that wise old man did on that day where he read that book, the tone that you talk to yourself is going to be the tone that you live. The language that you use is going to be the language that you experience. And he said to the customers on that day, if only every single person on the planet could realize this, number one, they would stop thinking about a whole bunch of things. Number two, they would stop talking about them. And they said, but you know what? It's too easy. That's way too easy for people to understand, because as humans, we like to complicate things. And sometimes when things are too easy, when things are too simple, we might say to ourselves, yeah, but that can't work. It's got to be harder than that, because I've got to work hard to be worthy to do whatever it is that I want to do. If that's the belief that you have. So maybe right now it's a good time within your life to start thinking about how it is that you're talking to yourself, the tones that you're using within inside your own mind, and what you can do to change the way that you think, feel, and act through changing the way that you talk. And just like that wise old man is still in that bookshop to this day, the number one book that he has recommended to many, many people over the years is the exact same book that changed his life forever. Until next time, this has been another Zen Den story. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you've got any questions or comments, then let me know by getting in contact with me either through this platform or on Facebook or Instagram, or you can visit the website at www.selfmasterywithluke.com. Until next time, stay switched on, stay aware, and I'll talk to you very soon.